Welcome back, everyone, to the LEC studio and week 1 of the spring split. Before the break, Vitality managed to beat Splice, and the key player of the game for that one was voted to be Attila with 52% of the votes. Fantastic for Vitality. We had the question marks as to how they could recover. We had those question marks for another 30 minutes into the game they just played, but they did manage to win, and Attila was
I'm a bit surprised. Attila was not having a good lane phase there.
Let's be clear, though. Attila has the wonderful achievement of 2 tanks are going to leap into the Fed vein, and I'm going to look really good because of it. So shout out to you, Attila. You did it. You killed people.
Way to diminish his success.
No, look, Vitality earned that win as a team. Vitality earned that win as a team, but also, at the end of the day, I don't think anyone from Vitality walks away from that win like, this was a perfect game. We are the best team in Europe, and we have nothing to work on.
Absolutely, but good for them that they managed to get a win on the board this week. And now let's look ahead towards our next game, whereas the Fnatic killers, SK Gaming, look to pull off another massive upset as they take on Misfits. And I'm going to be careful with that wording because it might not be such a big upset after what we saw from SK Gaming yesterday. Of course, SK Gaming is back in the league. They're a huge esports organization, but it's been a couple of years since they fielded a lineup in League of Legends. They're back in the LEC, and man, what a start with their roster of rookies.
It's honestly just so fantastic for this team to start the way that they did. Obviously, the circumstances were less than ideal, the way that it took them a pretty long time to get their first win on the board, playing 1.5 games, but at the end of the day, they got it, and that's all that matters. They took down Fnatic. They basically beat Fnatic twice, and this is not a start that anyone expected whatsoever.
No. And I feel like such a strong part of that is their jungler and Selfmade. I saw the Reddit post. I 100% agree with it. When does Selfmade play? This is the guy that you need to be paying attention to. And what's crazy is that when you look at the SK roster, it basically just looks like the Mad Lions got a huge upgrade.
Yeah. And I think that's important. I mean, I think it's also important to see how this will evolve the next couple of years because remember, Vitality also picked up 3 players from the LVP last year and did great. This time around, SK made that choice, and Selfmade is shining straight off game 1.
And what sticks out to me is that Selfmade can take winning lanes and transfer into a winning map. This is a cerebral, macro-oriented jungler. Watch how he creatively navigates his gank paths, how he's creatively stalking the enemy jungle, and how he's navigating a lot of these team fights. Because it wasn't just about his lane priority, it was about those sick Sejuani ultimates, finding Reckless in the backline.
And we saw the highlight play, right? We could watch it again and again, not the one you see here, but the one where he threads the needle, where he finds the ultimate under Reckless to win his team the game. But I'm sorry, Frost. I got to stop you. You're hype on this rookie. I say that's one game. Let's talk about my boy Maxwell. This man has a history, and yesterday is no exception. Misfits with a 3,000 IQ jungle start, the Ghost Leash. So brilliantly executed to get their bot lane snowballing. If we can take a chance, we can look back on it. You're going to see how smart this is, how clever it is.
Not going to take a chance. We're going to get it for you.
There you go. This is the equivalent of acting in League of Legends. You see it around Baron Pits, and now you see it in the Leash. Maxwell solo starts. The bot lane is already there. The enemy team is now convinced that Maxwell's on the top side. How do they know? Because they're going to see a Scion, you check the mini-map there, walking up to the top side because he has aggroed the buff. He's taken damage, just like you would if it was a real Leash. All the information the Rogue think they have here is completely incorrect. It's later confirmed when he's spotted by Urgot that bad information is relayed to the team, and then when Maxlor shows up in the bot lane, Kikis is standing there going, what happened? This guy was supposed to be topside.
Oh, barely misses the ward there as well, and you see the immediate turn.
Yeah.
Misfits, they sprinted out of the gate. Everyone seems to be on cohesion. Gorilla is joining Hansama. He's being that hyper-aggressive aggro laner, and Hansama started to pop off with the Draven, and it was basically just, what is that sport? The curling?
Curling.
Yeah. Where
the curling stone.
Exactly.
Hansama's
the curling stone.
You get your brooms out, the rest of the team, they broom him across. He lands in the perfect spot every time. That's what the Draven is.
Fantastic. So one of the people with the broom is this Maxlor then.
Absolutely.
Because these 2 junglers and these 2 teams, SK and Misfits, I love that, are up versus each other today. So let's break down some of these matchups we were talking about. Starting with this one, what are we expecting now? Second game on stage for Selfmade and a Maxlor who is on a mission with this revamped Misfits.
I think it's important to identify the playstyle, and you can kind of see this in the stats themselves. A much higher kill participation and K plus A, so kills plus assists at 15 minutes for Selfmade. It tells you that when SK are being successful, it's when they're grouped up together, when they are playing as a unit around their jungler. Meanwhile, Misfits, it was all about Hansama. Yeah, Maxlor had some really creative pathing, and it was just kind of this formula setup that once one domino started to tip over, everything fell into place for Misfits, but it was a lot more skirmish-oriented, a lot more pinpointed on the map. So I'm looking for kind of some quick hit and runs from Misfits and their macro game to take over with big 5v5s for SK if they take after the trends on day one.
I think it's absolutely the case, but the big thing about those hit and runs for Misfits is that when you're powering up a lane like Gorilla in Hansama, that is truly terrifying, because if there's one point that I look at on this SK lineup that could be targeted, I mean, it's literally anyone who's going up against this bot lane, and right now with them looking so good, if Maxwell gets one or two of those ganks, Selfmade doesn't get to roam around. He doesn't get a group anymore. He has to live bot lane just to stop these two from killing people.
Yeah, for sure. And again, we've only seen one game, but I think you can be a bit more liberal with what you project for these two when you know the history that both Hansama and Gorilla have. And it was remaining to be seen how they would interact together, and their first test was an absolute success.
And while there are a lot of not a lot of question marks around Selfmade, everyone knows he's good, but a lot of people are still looking at Crown Shot and Dreams and how they will go up against this Gohan bot lane between Misfits, because Gorilla and Hansama look on fire and they look on the same page. Again, I didn't know if Gorilla was going to take a step back with Hansama, play more of that low econ style, since Prey and him never got a lot of attention, but he stepped right forward with Hansama and met him to play that aggressive style.
Yeah, fantastic. The two teams are on fire, both with a win on day one. But tonight, Misfits face a tough challenge in SK Gaming. Well, SK Gaming will look to slay another giant. Let's see if they can do it and if they can pull it off. Over to you guys.
It's Medi, 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 Medi. Hey, Medi, Medi.
Woo! Let's go!
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Berlin. Do the intro, Medic.
Thank you, Shots, and hello everyone. I'm Medi Chamberlain here with Andrew Vedius today, and together we are Medi Vedi, and we're here to talk about SK Gaming up against Misfits. And both these teams came into the split with very different expectations, Vedius.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at SK, former Mad Lions players paired up with players like Dreams, Empyrean, who haven't had the most successful career, you kind of don't really have any expectations for this team. You look at them and you think, okay, they're probably going to be towards the bottom end of the league. They're going to struggle against the top teams. And then game one, they surprise everyone and they shut down Fnatic.
A Fnatic that was a little bit hamstrung, you know, bringing Nemesis in, having Whippo in the top lane, not having Soaz there as that backup. So yes, it was a big achievement for SK, and we are cautiously optimistic for them coming into the rest of the season. Misfits, on the other hand, dominated their game one, but that was a little bit more expected.
Well, yeah, because this is supposed to be a super team. This is full of experienced players. This is stacked full of talent. And so people assume that they're just going to come in and start swinging like G2 have. But now you kind of have to measure how good Misfits are against a team like SK, because they've proven that they have the synergy that Misfits is looking for. They have the skill that Misfits needs to prove that they do have, because Misfits versus Rogue was expected to go one way. SK versus Fnatic was expected to go the complete other way that it did in reality. So now we have quite an exciting matchup. We're in game 4 of the day. We have my favorite champion select music.
And I have my favorite co-caster.
Thank you so very much, my friend. So let's jump straight into the draft. What do we see so far?
Well, already Misfits banned out the Ezreal that Crownshot played yesterday. There's the Xin as well that we saw Selfmade on, and the Victor removed by Misfits. On the other side, Cassiopeia and Aatrox. Not really many surprises there.
Well, a lot of strong champions are still available. Akali, Aurelia, Lucian, all up for grabs right now. Remember that WorldLib loves to play these carry top laners. They could just go right now for the Akali-Aurelia duo, have that flexibility between top and mid, and they can save their early carry pick for a little bit later on in the draft.
Would make a lot of sense. I mean, having that power in the top lane, having that power in the hands of WorldLib, who has been a carry player so consistently, would be good for SK, but instead they say, no, WorldLib, tank duty for you, and we're going to get Dreams and engage support as well in the form of Rakan.
I'm absolutely fine with Dreams on Rakan. When we did see him in the very first game of the LEC, he did bring that out against Fnatic, and he had a fantastic performance on it. He's going to get his hands back into that pool, but now we see as well that the Galio-Camille combo has been left available. Maxwell gonna lock that one in. Camille was one of his big favorites. I was already talking earlier in the day how many EU teams don't value Camille the same way that the rest of the world seems to, but Misfits are saying, you know what, let's grab ourselves 3 S-tier picks, and immediately they're gonna lock those in.
Exactly. If you're Misfits, you're saying, well, if we could draft something without bans, this would be our ideal draft, right? You have one of the best AD carries, you've got a great engage tool, a strong early game jungler, and you have a bit of a tank in the form of the Galio, who is also almost an AP assassin at times as well. Looks like SK are going to put their eggs in the Nocturne basket as well. I'm sure you have a lot to say about that, being a Nocturne one trick, of course.
I think it's quite interesting. I think that in terms of dueling power, Nocturne can hold his own against the Camille, because remember, her stun can be spell shielded by the Nocturne, and he has a lot of dueling prowess, especially with the lethal tempo as well. But his impact isn't really felt until he hits that level 6 mark, whereas Camille, her real power comes all the way up from levels 1 to level 6. So I think that is quite an interesting matchup. It looks like that we are just having a quick remake in the draft. We're waiting for confirmation why exactly that is.
I believe Hansama's client crashed in the draft there, so that's why we're having to rectify that. We'll find out if picks and bans have to say the same.
Oh, they should do. Yeah.
We'll find out. We'll make sure that we get that from league officials, just in case there was something that went wrong a little bit earlier on. But up until now, we've seen Misfits get a very strong draft in form of just S-tier picks across the board. SK didn't err towards those power picks. You know, they picked the Rakan, who's very good, and we're seeing him a lot at the moment, but Sion and Nocturne wouldn't be sitting up there with the Aurelio, the Akali in my book.
Yeah, I am quite surprised, but it feels like SK have a plan in mind. They're going to stick to what they know. They're going to stick to something that they feel very comfortable with, and you got to have faith in the sheepy drafting. It seemed to work out for them yesterday against Fnatic. And so far, they're kind of gearing up for a lot of engage. Nocturne, Rakan, very orientated towards what they kind of found success with yesterday, where they grouped up mid and found a lot of good fights. Whereas for Misfits, they're geared very much towards playing around bot side of the map. You have the Global from the Galio, you have the Lucian, which is a strong laner, and as you can see, we are jumping back into the draft. Picks will be the same. So there will be no new surprises until we get into the second half of the draft. The only thing we're really missing are the big carries coming out from SK Gaming.
And we're going to get into that second ban phase before they can pick those big carries as well. So expect that pool just to be limited a little bit. I wonder if Misfits will look towards getting rid of AD carries or if they'll move towards the mid laners. Of course, Sion could be flexed towards mid.
Yes, very true. Just thinking about some of the other strong picks that are up and available right now. There's still the Aurelia, there's still the Akali. Lissandra is free as well, but I really want to see damage coming out from the side of SK. Kai'Sa is kind of another very solid champion that is up and available if that's something the direction they want to go to. Xayah is another one with the Xayah Rakan still being up and free to play. Oh, sorry, as I say that, just as she's banned.
I mean, another high damage AD carry we've seen is the Draven. I'm not sure how well that would fit into this composition. It feels a little bit squishy with the Camille and the Galio able to jump on the back line.
I don't really like it into Camille, Galio, and a Lucian as well, because Draven, you really want to just be dominant in the laning phase, and I feel like that you're not going to have that same level of dominance against the Lucian, who is pretty mobile and just all-around very, very strong in the 2 versus 2. So I feel like Gorilla could look at a Thresh to kind of answer the Rakan. Braum is also up and available, a very strong duo. You already have the Camille Galio as engage, so you don't really need more to come from your support. And then we see the Kai'Sa ban coming out from Misfits as well, recognizing that that is a direction Crown Shot could go towards.
Yeah. We do just, of course, with the remake, we did have the same picks and bans up until the point where Hansama's client crashed. And now we're getting into that second phase. You say the bans coming up, Kai'Sa removed, Sivir is an option. I was thinking maybe even the Varus for Crown Shot if you want a little bit of damage in that AD carry role, but Sivir works well in team fights. I'd like to see SK play towards that team fighting style they had yesterday.
Interesting, so they are going to lock in the Lissandra. Not going for anything too crazy. We did see Perian play this yesterday.
Yep. Played it very well into Nemesis's Akali.
Yeah, he did die a lot later on to the game when the things got a little hectic between the two teams, and there was a lot of action happening back and forth. Hopefully he can have a better performance today in against Febiven's Galio.
That was a big thing for SK yesterday, because their early game, Selfmade controlled it completely, but their mid game, they had a few fumbles.
Yes, they certainly did, but then they were able to bounce it back a little bit later on. Now Hansama, wait.
So, okay, options. Lucian mid, Galio top, Galio support is an option.
I'm just wondering if this is another issue with the client for Hansama. We will wait to hear, because I'm very surprised if this Ashe is a pick.
Did get buffed on 9.1. We are jumping out, it's not going to be picked, but did get buffed on 9.1 with the Hawk Shot. Now, if you get vision of someone, you get an assist on them, assuming they didn't have vision before. We're just jumping back out of pick and ban.
Yeah,
so
it looks like Hansama does still have some issues with his client. We will look to get those rectified as quickly as possible, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure we have some technical experts that will very easily be able to resolve this as quickly as we can. In the meantime, we can talk a little bit about what has been locked in so far. SK kind of gone for what they went for yesterday. Solid front line from Werlib. He did a great job of zoning the backline in these team fights. On top of that, they have engaged from Rakan and the jungler. Jungler can also be active in the early game, but even if he just waits for level 6, I expect Selfmade to look for a lot of ganks, very much like he did probably around the top side of the map too, because that's just, even when Werlib was playing tanks, he still liked to play around that lane, kind of relying on that old synergy that those two used to have when they played for Mad Lions. And Crownshot going to be on that scaling AD carry, so they are geared much more towards the scaling avenue.
So the Sivir wasn't locked in, it was the Lissandra instead that was locked in.
Oh,
Crownshot
yes,
doesn't
my
have his
apologies,
AD carry as of yet. I was just thinking for Misfits, if I'm looking at this lineup and thinking what support do I go for, we mentioned the Thresh as a counter to Rakan, but you do also have the Morgana as an option here.
Morgana's
Into the
another one.
Lissandra, into the Nocturne, into the Scion, even into the Rakan, of course, does a lot of work with that Black Shield.
My only issue with Morgana is I don't think it's the strongest lane that you could pair up with the Lucian. I'd much rather see something like a Braum so that you could actually have a lot more kill threat in that lane, but it then very much depends. I also think that Braum does a great job of getting in the way of things like Scion engages, and it's really effective against Nocturne, because he can block the Q, which is a lot of your damage, and the moment Nocturne dives in, he has a lot of peel to provide for the AD carry. So as a Nocturne player, I get really irritated when I have to play against Braums. They're really, really obnoxious. So I think it could be a solid pick.
That makes a lot of sense. And if you look at who Selfmade can dive on that Nocturne, a Galio, a Camille, you can't really dive on either of those very easily. Camille's just going to jump away, and Galio's just going to taunt you and destroy you. So then you're only looking at the Lucian as a squishy target. Be very difficult for Selfmade, but he did show us yesterday just how strong his early game can be, just how effectively he set up SK for success, and hopefully for SK fans out there, we can see that again today.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are excited to see what this SK can do, already starting off the split by taking a game off Fnatic. And if they can take down Misfits as well, so many questions arise. Like, is Misfits actually that good? Is SK actually truly the best team in Europe? You know, like...
I think G2 will have a word with you about
but
that one.
It just builds more hype towards that matchup, right? When SK are taking games off of what look like very strong teams on paper, but also Misfits, they want to solidify themselves as a top team. There was some contention between Frosk and myself during the Euphoria podcast, where she actually put Misfits below SK in her tier list. She thinks that very early on in the split, they won't have synergy, they won't be able to coordinate. She didn't have that much faith in Febiven either, and she kind of expected the way in which SK played. She has a lot of confidence in Selfmade too, that on the tier list, that SK should just be a little bit above a Misfits. Very early on the split, but that's not to say the Misfits won't be good by the end. Yeah. But very early on. And
you can understand the doubts, right? Like, the last time we've seen super teams in here, you look at Alliance, you look at Vitality when they joined the league, neither of those teams really had an incredible impact, you know? And even Elements as well, they really collapsed in their first couple of seasons. So you have to wonder whether you can build that synergy up straight away, especially when you've got loud voices like Maxlor, like Soaz on the same team as well. How easy is it for you to get all of those cogs to align?
So, right now, everyone's just checking to make sure that the clients are working, and we hopefully can jump back into draft relatively soon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for bearing with us. This will definitely be an exciting matchup. Originally, you probably wouldn't have assumed it, you know, Misfits versus SK, but I'm looking forward to seeing what both these teams can bring. And finally, we get to see the Galio-Camille combo, which is what I'm really looking forward to. No one in Europe has really brought it out. You know, the Camille has not been that valued, but I know Maxlor is a huge fan of the champion, and he can have a lot of early game impact with it as well.
Okay, because you talk about the early game impact of the Camille. When I think Camille Galio, I think the ult combination. You know, you dive on the back line, then Galio follows up. Can Camille really have that much of an impact in the early game? You're just looking for consistent ganks?
Her range on her E is insane.
Ludicrous.
Right? And when you kind of pair that up with the taunt and the early base damage of Galio, that 2v2 is incredibly strong. Now, depending on what's paired up with the Nocturne, you could also have a very strong 2v2. I think a lot of people underestimate how strong Nocturne is in early game skirmishes because of all the bonus AD you get from your Q, and with Lethal Tempo you get a lot of attack speed as well. But it all depends on what that mid lane is for SK. As I say, that it will be the Lissandra. As you guys can see, we are back in the draft. Hansama has successfully locked in a champion. It will be the Alistar down the bot lane, and now you're just expecting what the top lane is. Aurelia still up. Akali still up.
You can see why he locked in the Ashe the first time. Alice is so close to it. As you say, yes, sorry, I totally distracted from your actual analysis there. It's going to be the Cannon over the Akali, Aurelia, and the Jace. So they actually might fall all the way through the pick and ban phase here.
Well, it looks like Soaz wants that AoE damage. Ties in nicely. It gives a lot more teamfight value as well. You expect this to be AP, but now you just kind of look at this wombo combo, right? You have engage from both Alistar and the Galio. You have damage from Camille, Lucian, and the Cannon. You should have winning lanes in both bot and top lane. And Maxtor has a bunch of options to play around. Now, sure, Sivir in the late game should outdamage the Lucian, but the backline threat that exists with the Cannon, with the Galio, is so threatening that I think Misfits have just got a very well-rounded comp. They cover every aspect. The only thing they have to really worry about is when that Sivir gets to like 4 or 5 items. And so kind of the pressure falls on Selfmade. He needs to be the one to mitigate this early game lead from Misfits. He needs to be the one to control and dictate the pace of the game. Where can he find those leads? How well can he work with Pyrion to try and snowball and use the pressure from his lanes that he was able to successfully do yesterday? A lot of pressure falls on the young rookie's jungler's shoulders, and he's going up against a very experienced roster to boot.
He was going up against a very experienced jungler yesterday as well in the form of Boxer, and he read him like a book. Can he do it today? That's the big question. Will Misfits Super Team continue their rampage through the LEC? And probably the second most convincing win yesterday against Rogue after G2's victory. And if they win today, I think we can very much put them up as title contenders.
Well, we're still yet to see them go up against some of the old dog titans, you know?
True.
They're still yet to play G2, still have to see how they do against the likes of Fnatic. SK, of course, still a young team, and cautiously optimistic was the word that you used for SK. Was it a matter of them outplaying Fnatic, or was it a matter of Fnatic not being up to scratch?
Fnatic outplaying themselves.
Yes, that's one of the big debates. So SK can really put a stamp on that question today if they're able to put up a strong showing against Misfits, and it all revolves around their jungler Selfmade. So let's jump into game.
Misfits up against SK. We are on to Summoner's Rift after a few delays in the champion select. But now all the champions selected, 10 of them on the Rift to join us, and a whole lot of action to follow, I am sure.
Thank you very much, everyone, for bearing with us. We're now in the game. Have a look at some of the keystones, runes, see if there's anything crazy or unique coming out. The Kleptomancy on Kennen, for those that haven't seen Kennen recently, is definitely a lot more common now because of how obnoxious he is during the laning phase, especially against tanks. He gets a lot of auto attacks off. It's very easy to harass, so he can just increase that gold income, get to that item spike that much sooner. Apart from that, I don't see anything too crazy, as Misfits actually looking for a bit of invade.
Lightning rush forward from Soaz, just chucks a little shuriken into the back of Selfmade, but with the ward down, Selfmade would know where the vision is for Misfits right now. And we talked a little bit about how Selfmade wants to shut down Misfits' pressure in the early game, and you said they had pressure in the top and the bot. That's the winning lanes for Misfits. If you're Selfmade, you're looking at the map, you're thinking, you're pathing, how do you rotate around here? What's your intention? When are you looking to be able to relieve pressure on these lanes?
Very specific question.
Yeah, it was a little bit specific. I didn't intend it to be so specific. What does Selfmade, how is Selfmade going to stop his lanes dying in the early game, Vidius? How do you do that?
So, I mean, the most important thing is understanding where Maxlor is and being able to track what he plans on doing. And already, Maxlor is doing what he likes to do, the 200 IQ jungler, the man that predicted what Kikis was going to do yesterday, and he's already looking for a gank towards the bot side of the map. It looks like Selfmade hasn't read this in time. Let's see what happens.
Gorilla with the flash forward into the pulverize. Maxwell coming in as well. Hansama flashes. Maxwell goes forward as well. Can't quite get onto Crownshot because Dreams flashed in the way, and Dreams and Crownshot get out. 3 flashes for what? 2 on the side of SK.
A lot of summoner spells were burnt as Misfits tried to go for a very early gank in the mid lane. Now, Selfmade. Looks like that he has spotted Maxlor out. Won't go for the play, but there's the Hex Flash. Gorilla won't be able to get anything off the back of it, but a lot of early aggression and medic. We talked about it. Maxlor, he wants to make things happen between levels 1 and 6 Selfmade. He's just going to concede the jungle because he knows he doesn't have a bot lane to back him up.
Blue buff resets as well. Maxwell continues to push forward, though. Gets the Sun Selfmade, gets the smite down. Maxwell going to get feared, but Gorilla's on his way. Headbutt Pulverize comes in. Maxwell doesn't have the E. Lissandra's coming across as well. Pyrian trying to join his team. Glacial Path, Ring of Frost, looking for the blast cone. Gorilla will take it. Here comes Dreams across the wall as well. Now it's a 4v4 in the jungle. And first blood goes to Misfits, and second blood goes to Misfits. They react perfectly to the fight.
And it was Hans Sama who joined the fight that much quicker than Crown Shot could. The combined CC of Galio and Gorilla was enough to lock down the two members of SK. Hans Sama then picks both those kills up, and what was a failed level 1 gank from Maxlor turns into a bountiful kill for their primary carry.
I have seen this story before. Yesterday, Hans Sama finished 8-0-2 on the Draven. Here, already 2 kills up, has a bounty on his head, is in a very strong position.
But Selfmade, he's back on the map again, level 2. He's looking for the top side. He has his eyes on Soaz, who's just getting a bit of deep vision down. They don't know where he is right now, while Hans Sama is zoning Crownshot and Dreams away from the tower.
And no, Maxwell's waiting in the wings as well. Crownshot doesn't have the spell shield anymore. The heal comes out for the movement speed. Maxwell can't quite connect the stun, but Crownshot is done for anyway. Another kill to Hans Sama. 3.5 minutes in, Hans Sama's 3-0.
And it's just like we saw from Misfits last year. Selfmade, he could be in trouble.
Soaz invaded as well. This is incredible for Misfits all across the map. They're just outplaying, but the fear comes off, and Selfmade will survive for the moment. No, he won't. The veteran stamps the rookie in his place.
And Misfits find themselves with 4 kills 4 minutes into the game. They saw G2's game from earlier and then said, you know what, we can do better than that. Febiven now going into period.
Every Misfits player is just saying, anything you can do, I can do better. Fighting all over the map, and they have come out swinging in this game versus SK.
3 kills now sit on top of Hans Sama. This Lucian is so strong. And you can see the goal deficit already snowballing out of control. So let's backtrack. This was an engage from Maxlor. You look at the minimap, that's where you've got to go to first. He knows that he has Gorilla behind him, but they've got to be scared now because both the Rakan and the Lissandra are looking for the collapse. The problem is they put themselves in a choke point where Crownshot can't get involved, and Hans Sama joins the fight. Selfmade doesn't have the mana to really follow up. And it was just in the moment SK realized they overcommit. They couldn't turn it around, and they end up losing 2 members. And then it's made even worse when Hans Sama zones Crownshot away. He thinks that if he can just get close enough to the tower, he can stop them. But unfortunately, they end up punishing him. Once again, Maxlor shows his face bot lane, and it's just like we saw from Summer Split of last year.
Misfits still playing through their bottom lane. Last year we saw them playing through Hans Sama, and now Gorilla's there for the party as well. Yesterday on the Rakan, he did an incredible job. Today on the Alistair, consistently landing those knockups on 2-3 people, and it's just making it such a difficult laning phase for SK. Already 2,500 gold behind. Gorilla goes in once again. Look for the stun here. Isn't quite going to connect, but he just forces Crownshot down to no HP. Hans Sama could trade into this. Crownshot just survives on sub 100 HP.
Gorilla did use the Ignite, almost found himself a kill. Selfmade, only level 3, making his way towards the bot side of the map.
They know he's there now, though.
Yeah, they do. And I don't think he's going to be able to pull anything off. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Soaz is level 6.
And has a 15 CS advantage over Werlib. He's on tank duty in the top lane, but Maxlor and so is just going to force him off. Go for the full engage. That's the slicing maelstrom. Good flash away from Werlib. Keeps himself alive for the moment. Knocks up Maxlor as well. Good survive from the Scion.
So they just want to get the flash out from Werlib to make another play a little bit later on into the game. Man, oh man, action. So much happening in the early stages of the play. I never even had an opportunity to answer your question. So to backtrack.
Which one, Vince?
How does Selfmade stop Maxlor from killing everyone?
Not like that.
He needed to read Maxlor's plan. He needed to know what he was up to, and unfortunately, the vision wasn't there in the early game. They didn't prepare for what he could do, and now Maxlor is just having his way with the entire map.
Easy enough kill. The taunt coming out from Forbidden alongside the knockup, and Maxlor just follows it up for an easy, secure, and another assist. We talked about it. 200 IQ jungler, his ghost jungling yesterday. This is 300, 400 IQ even.
I know, man. It's impressive stuff. Selfmade, he made a name for himself yesterday, really outplaying Broxer and shutting them down. And now you can see that he is continuing the pressure. Back in the bot lane with his teammates. Crownshot does have the flash.
Crownshot's not allowed to get near his tower. He's dead once again.
Oh, no.
The gold differential between those AD carries is about 1,500 right now, Venias. We're 7 minutes in the freaking game.
Oh, man. This is a yikes if I've ever seen one.
Okay, so we talked about it and we said, if Misfits beats SK, are they the best team in the league at the moment? I said, you know, G2 will have...
no.
Yes, I said G2 will have something to say about that, right? This is a G2 level demolition of the opponent.
Oh, for sure.
This is just incredible stuff.
And you can feel Frostgurn sweating right now.
Yeah, she put them 8th. She put them 8th in her tier list.
You can hear her being like, SK, no! What's happening? But it's all Misfits, and the number of options that SK have are very limited now. And like we got to go back to the draft. Misfits picked themselves up a lot of strong picks, and you know, we didn't talk much about it, but Alice is often considered a very strong pick into the Sivir, and they voluntarily picked the Sivir into that matchup, you know? And so they had losing lanes bot, they had losing lane top, they have a neutral lane in the mid lane, which Featherman is doing a fantastic job of leveraging. And remember, he's level 7 now. He can come bot with Max Law to set up another dive before Hansam is even level 6.
We haven't even got to the wombo combo part of this composition yet, and already they're 6-0 up. SK licking their wounds, trying to find a way back into this game, because now lane dominance is even more important than ever. You've started to get those turret placings down. Misfits already have 3 down towards that bottom lane. I think they've chipped away 1 in the mid lane as well. They're just in such a strong position. They're denying vision from SK, and Dreams and Crownshot have to be so scared of wherever Max Law could be.
Right now, Max Law is everywhere across the board, showcasing his experience. It's easy to forget that Max Law's actually been in the European scene for... Oh, here we go, engage.
Summer alone here. The darkness comes out. Dreams looking for the chase, but doesn't have 6, so can't even stun up Hansama, and Hansama will escape in the bottom lane.
But a lot of respect for Selfmade. His ultimate was up. He looked for a play. We do see the ultimate come out from Stars. I don't think much is going to happen off the back of it.
It's just clearing minions.
Oh, but Pyrion on his way towards the top side of the map. Let's see if he can pull anything off.
So it still has the flash away. There it goes. Well, unable to connect with the decimating smash. But Pyrion comes across the wall, puts him in a tomb, trying to put him in his place. The ignite comes down, and Soaz will tick, tick, boom down. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Misfits go for another engage. Can't quite find the connection, but still advantage Misfits across the board.
I feel like I can say quite confidently that if Misfits are able to take this tower down within the next minute, this will be the fastest tower taken within the LEC so far this year.
I wonder if we'll see all of the turret placings go down, because we saw SKT do that before.
Oh yeah.
There's an opportunity here.
What's it called? The Ultra Super Mega
The Ultra Super Mega Perfect game, but they have lost the kill.
They've already lost the kill.
Misfits ruining it for the LEC once again.
Well, now they set their eyes on mid. They're like, right, bot lane, check. Next is mid lane. We've got to take that tower down, makes it moving around the map that much easier. We haven't even seen the Galio ult used yet. We haven't needed to. And SK preemptively moving up towards the top side in preparation of the swap that should come out from Misfits. But 5,300 gold. Misfits kind of silencing many of the naysayers, many of the doubters, and putting up a fantastic showing so far in their second game of the LEC.
And if you want to just think about what 5,300 gold looks like in terms of itemization, full blade of the Ruin King and boots sitting on Hansama.
Okay.
Double longsword and boots of speed on Crownshot.
Is that 2 members again attacking the bot lane?
Crownshot jumping out there, Max Law as well on the way. Gorilla jumps in, Dreams is down, and Crownshot not long for the rip, I'm afraid. The swagging night, and they walk away.
It's just cruel. At what point is it just bullying? I mean, Max Law has put a target on Crownshot and Dreams back and said, welcome to Europe, this is Hansama, we like to camp him. And now he's 3. That wasn't even Hansama, he wasn't even there. He hadn't got to the lane yet, so it was just preemptively, wait, you're not here yet? But
we don't need you anymore, Hansama, it's good, you go farm somewhere else.
Oh,
but it actually reminds me of, because we saw Ender on the Ready Check earlier, and I always think of, there's a part in Ender's game where a bully starts bullying him in the school.
Yeah.
And he beats up the bully no end. And
right.
At one point, the bully's lying on the floor, and you hear Ender's conscious mind think, and it's just like, I have to keep hitting this guy until he just can't get up.
Oh.
And you're sending a message to everyone else. That's what's happening here. Misfits, they know they've defeated SK. They know they've beaten them. They're 8-1 up. They are 6,000 gold ahead at 11 minutes. They know SK are done for. They know they're on the ground. But they're going to keep kicking them until Fnatic and G2 and Schalke and Rogue and XL and everyone else in the league realizes that Misfits are here to stay.
Well, it looks like the ones getting beaten want to stand back up.
So it's getting dive. Will go down. Gorilla comes to join the party as well. Selfmade pops the stopwatch to keep himself alive for the moment, but the tower's still working its way through Whirlip. There's the hero's entrance. Galio joins the party, brings down the hammer. Not going to connect on anyone. Engage with an unstoppable onslaught. That's not where you want to be. Whirlip taunted under the tower, and he will pay for it with his life. Dreams jumping around straight into the winds of war. He gets clapped in the back by Forbidden.
And what was a 2 versus 4?
Oh.
Ends up being a 2-for-2 trade as Misfits secure another tower elsewhere on the map.
That's all the tower placings. They're going to do it.
Absolute destruction coming out from the side of Misfits. TP going to come into the mid lane as well from Soaz, zoning Crownshot away, who's only level 7. He's the same level as Gorilla right now in the game, and Crownshot, you need to be careful.
Crownshot slicing Maelstrom, put into the just electrical doom room there by Maxlow and Soaz. That is not a pretty sight. 9,000 gold lead now for Misfits. And Betty, just to confirm for you, that was the quickest first tower of LEC
Thank you very much, production team behind the scenes. So let's have a look back at this dive. They think that they've caught Soaz isolated, and I mean, the execution is pretty good. They get the kill pretty quickly and cleanly. Gorilla then shows up. He's able to tank up a lot of damage with his ultimate, and then the Galio ulti comes through. And at this point, you're like, okay, Gorilla, you need to be careful. You're overextending a little bit. Whirlip thinks he can flash in and get the kill, but very quick reactions from Gorilla allows him to disengage. And then Dreams, he can't get close enough to Pyrion to be able to dash out. That means that he's stuck between a rock and a tower and well, a giant bull with a bear, a cowbell, and he ends up losing his life. So Misfits extend their kills to 11, they extend their goal to 8,000, and now they own all 3 outer towers.
And this is the point in the game where you look at Misfits, it's like you're so far ahead. But where'd you go next? Because you've broken all the outer towers. And that's always the easy part of it.
You can literally do whatever you want.
Okay. Because whenever I have this game in solo queue and we're miles ahead, we do whatever we want for a while,
yeah,
and it tends to evolve into, and then we lose the game.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, when you have this kind of advantage at this point in the game, you can take bad fights and still win them. Just because the raw numbers that you have just overwhelm your opposition. Skill stops becoming a factor at a certain point if the playing field isn't even, do you know what I mean? So Misfits, I think they just need to, I mean, they can group up, they can play multiple lanes, they need to avoid things like this.
Nocturne jumping in on towards Hansama, pops the stopwatch to keep himself alive for the moment. There's a great knockup from Whirlip as well, but Hansama very low, self-made, can't quite get the damage down, and Hansama survives! The standing AD carry from Misfits just keeps himself alive, gets the double. Pyrion tries to find a path to escape, but cannot find it, and now Whirlip is stuck in a bush. He has nowhere to go. Gorilla will fall, but Whirlip's going to fall not shortly after. Hansama will answer the slicing. Maelstrom comes out mid, Crownshot's down. It's almost, it is an ace for Misfits, 15 minutes in across the map.
So do you remember when I said Misfits could do whatever they want? Yeah. And even in a bad fight, it gets to a point where the raw numbers just can't be beaten. That is what I mean. Misfits just straight up demolished SK when they sent they sent 4 members to try and kill 2. They weren't able to even find a kill until the very end. And the stopwatch here from Hansama was perfectly timed. He avoided a lot of the crowd control, and then Gorilla plays this perfectly, knocking Selfmade underneath the tower. Hansama spacing just outside the range of Nocturne to avoid death. He then gets some of his health back from the runes, and then meanwhile, this is when SK just kind of have to divide. Maxwell makes his way up to the top side as well. While that's happening, Crownshot's trying to push elsewhere, but Soaz is like, no, no, no. This map belongs entirely to us. Flashes in, secures a kill. 0-5-0 for Crownshot. What was a fantastic debut for SK, they're now being put in their place by Misfits.
They definitely are. And at some point, it does just become repetition for Misfits. You know, you can just kill 5 people as often as you want. They are starting to chip away at these towers as well. In 3.5 minutes, there'll be a Baron for them if they wanted, but the way they're playing, they could probably end the game by then.
Yep. They still have to respect the Civic Wave, because you also can't just dive whatever you want, because there's a lot of crowd control on the side of SK. But we'll see. Right now, the tower's slowly chipping away. SK can't get close enough to the 3-man unit. Misfits can just group. I feel if they just group and dive, they would actually just win.
Do it by the numbers for now. No point risking it. Misfits, I remember 2017 Worlds, they have some bad experiences grouping and diving under towers against SKT.
Misfits, good zoning there. Now they have push in mid and top. Breaking into the base is much harder, especially pre-20 minutes, so they'll likely just disengage, go for that final inner tower.
Good thing for them is, though, at the moment, of course, because of the minion changes, cannon minion every 2 waves. So it's a little bit easier to break into the base. Not easy at all, but you do have that little bit of extra support from your friendly neighborhood cannon minion. But for now, Misfits just take away all the jungle, take away all the gold on the map. They have a 12,000 gold lead 17 minutes in. And they are sitting in a very pretty spot. Look at that. 10,000 gold on Hansama. 5,000 gold
He literally doubled.
on Crown Shot.
Literally doubled.
Maxlaw's 3,000 gold ahead as well in the jungle. He's had a very, very good game.
Whew. Well, I do hope that this doesn't kill the hype for SK.
No, that you should still be hyped for SK.
Yeah, I still think that you should be excited, but, you know, as casters, we often try and like, so how do they get back into this game?
No,
I'm not going to do that.
I've deliberately not asked that question this time.
I'm afraid that this is one of those games where you're just like, you just got to kind of watch it unfold. You got to let it happen. You know, it's like you got to rip off the band-aid. It's painful at first, but it'll be fine afterwards.
Medically, it doesn't work like that a lot of the time. Oh, you just had surgery. Nah, just rip out the stitches. It's fine. Your appendix is hanging out. That's okay. Your body will heal itself.
I feel like you've never done that before, Medic.
Long ago, my days of appendectomies. But yeah, I'm pretty sure SK would like themselves removed from this game right now. And Misfits, at the moment, might try and remove some of them from the map because Pyrian's going to get taunted up here. Gorilla on the chase as well. Doesn't want to engage onto the Lissandra, but just forces them away. All of those outer towers down. 6 towers to 0 in favor of Misfits. And I mean, there's been a little bit of damage onto the Misfits turrets, but nothing really to be spoken of. Here comes the full engage, though, underneath the tower. The taunt combo, Pyrian didn't even have time to get away. This will be the inhibitor. As you said, you just want Misfits to dive, and they are looking to end this one very, very quickly.
Yeah, just group and dive. You have a massive gold lead. There's literally nothing you have to be afraid of. Baron's about to spawn. You can head over to that. The biggest thing Misfits potentially have to be scared of is Baron being stolen from them, but even then, they could still probably dive. So we shall see. Let's see how clean their dive is on this next tower. Remember that Misfits ended their game in 24 minutes earlier in the day. Misfits, if they really want to make a statement, need to be faster than that.
Well, Max will just get knocked up there. Well, knocked back into the team, put into the Hexagon of Maiden, pops the unstoppable onslaught, but he's going to get caught out. He's down already. Forbiven just zoning off the remaining 3 members of SK on that backline. Eventually, Pyrian will join them, but now it's a 4v5 in favor of Misfits, just looking for the inhibitor tower.
Yeah, and the front line is gone, but
Charm onto Hansama immediately QSS's. He's an item and a half ahead of his enemy AD carry. This will be the next inhibitor down. Misfits have to decide if they want to stick here or back away, reset, and go for the Baron.
Very quick reactions from Hansama there. 2 inhibitors have been taken. 20 minutes into the game, Misfits are setting records very early on into the split. And they have just looked devastating. They've done such a great job of snowballing this game. And it just continues to build hype for G2 versus Misfits later on into the split.
Earlier on in this game, we said Misfits yesterday played very much through their bot lane. It was the traditional Misfits style. And this is exactly the same. You know, they got Hansama ahead, they got Gorilla ahead, and they just snowballed through bot. But this is a lot more convincing because it's up against a team of the caliber of SK.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there were question marks around Rogue as well, you know, and it was a very convincing win, but it just feels that Misfits were not afraid to pull their punches this time around. They were literally going for plays time after time after time. Crown Shot and Dreams were being zoned so hard from their tower in the laning phase with Maxwell. Like, I didn't even see him in his own jungle. Now we see them grouping up once again. Wurlip trying to do what he can to fight them off, but there's so much pressure going into the base of SK. They're running out of time.
Sadly, Vedius is not going to be the quickest game of all EU history. That was 20:55, but Gorilla's trying to make it a little bit quicker as he jumps in on towards Pyrian and Wurlip. The inhibitor tower falls, and now Misfits can take the full-on fight. There's the slicing mouse from the electrical storm coming in, unable to connect onto SK, but forces them away. And now 3 inhibitors down, 22 minutes in. Misfits can just look to push in with the supers.
Yeah, they're just waiting for the super minions to arrive into the base. Double super minions will be more than enough to knock down these towers. This will likely be the fastest game of the LEC. and making a statement to G2 Esports. Misfits is here and ready to play. The Nexus is in their sights. This is SK's last-ditch effort.
Dreams pops the ultimate, but can't quite find the connection. First Nexus tower goes down. Pyrion jumping forward with the Hextech gun, Hextech Proto Belt. Can't quite find anything from that though, and the second Nexus tower already down. SK going back to the Foundry trying to heal themselves up, but you need to heal your towers because the next Nexus tower is about to fall, and here comes the engage. There's the Galio, brings down the hammer, and with the might of Thor, Misfits just wipe SK off the map. One down already, chasing Dreams to the side. While it falls, SK have nowhere to go. Even their own base is not safe, and that is just an incredible performance from SK in what was meant to be a back and forth boxing match. Misfits just turned it into a street fight, and they beat SK into the dirt.
The quickest game of LEC so far in 2019. GG's come across the board as Misfits just dismantle SK. What a sight it was. I wasn't expecting that.
I was not either, Betty.
You know, we saw it in the draft. We knew that Maxwell would look to be aggressive. We knew that he would try and play around bot. We thought there was going to be more in combination with the Galio. Around the level 6 mark, maybe they try and set up some dives. But nope, level 2 bot lane.
I even had a really cool name for the Hextech Ultimatum Galio ult Slicing Maelstrom combo.
Yeah?
It's the Electrical Doom Rune.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But now you can't use it, so sucks for you.
Or Thor's Boxing Ring.
No, too late. You gotta save him for another day, I'm afraid. Now, seal of disapproval.
Quickshot said it was good. He said it was, he clapped.
Seal of disapproval. He put the thumbs down, the shaking
I didn't see him put the thumbs down.
Oh well, but Misfits, they should be very happy with their win. Max Thor proving that he truly is a 300 IQ jungler.
It's very good stuff from Maxwell, because like last year, at the end of the year, everyone was saying Vox's best jungler in EU, followed by probably Jankos, and then Maxwell in a third position, maybe challenging Jankos for second.
Yep.
But now, after these two performances, Maxwell's name's right back up there.
Oh yes, it certainly is. Now it is only the first week, but Misfits N2-0, G2 N2-0. I believe so far no other team is joining them in the 2-0, 1-1 for XL, 1-1 for Vitality and Splice.
Yep.
And then we still have Fnatic versus OG, and neither of them can pick themselves up 2 wins because they're both sitting at 0 and 1 right now, which is going to be our next game, going to be very exciting.
Ooh.
Hopefully a little closer than this one was.
I mean, if it's not, that's a big statement for one of those teams as well, though. If Fnatic just come out and Nemesis claps fools, that would be very interesting, or if Origin do the same as well.
But yeah, so for Misfits, they are just kind of playing the way in which they did last year. Play around bot lane, play around Hansama. The Max Law Hansama synergy seems like hasn't gone anywhere. We really haven't had an opportunity to talk about Febiven or Soaz.
Don't need to.
Like, they've been solid, but it's very easy to look solid when your team is doing so well. So we'll see how this team develops as the split progresses.
And we can have a look at some of the highlights of just how well Misfits did in that game.
Let's watch back the slaughter, shall we?
Here we go. So Maxlaw goes in, and SK do not realize what they're getting themselves into.
But again, here, this is a situation where SK should have just disengaged. They don't recognize that Lucian's going to get there before them, and Crown Shot can't get involved in the fight. Selfmade doesn't have the mana to really offer any damage, and it ends up in a double kill going on to the Lucian as well.
This is level 3 behind the tower. Misfits just never gave SK the chance to do anything in this game.
No, they certainly did not. Maxlaw spent so much time hanging around his AD carry. This is definitely going to inflate the jungle proximity stats
just
around
a
the
little
bot
bit.
side of the map. I'm really curious as to how much of the jungle Maxlaw actually farmed, because it felt like that he was just always ganking. He was never actually in his own jungle.
I think he farmed the other jungle more than he farmed his own jungle.
I feel like he was farming enemy players.
Yeah, I mean that helps quite a lot as well. If you have a favorite for the game that you want to win the Kia player of the game, make sure you head on over to @LolEsports on Twitter and vote. Hansama, Maxlaw, and Whirlip are your options. It's a toss-up. I think Hansama and Maxlaw are definitely up there, but Whirlip.
I mean, you know that Hansama's going to win.
I do know that, but
last year,
some hope.
Maxlaw walked onto PGL and said, stop putting Hansama on player of the game.
He's just so damn good.
None of us get to win. So Maxlaw did a great job, guys.
Hansama did
Vote for Maxlaw. Just give him some
3
votes.
kills in 3
Make
minutes.
him feel at least a little bit valued.
Hansama was so good. On the other side of the rift, though, SK, of course, a little bit of a struggle for them in this game, but we said we were cautiously optimistic, and I think we still have that sentiment.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do next week. They end their first week in the LEC 1-1, and one of those teams was Fnatic. So I think you can walk away still pretty satisfied with how things have gone.
Yeah, you can. Well, we've got Law standing by with a man with a cowbell. It's Gorilla. Let's see what he has to say.
Thank you very much, guys. Indeed, I am joined with Gorilla and Hajin, who will be doing the translation with me. Thank you very much for being with me on stage. Now, you're one of the most Korean players, and you leaving the LCK was maybe one of the biggest surprise in the off-season. So what made you want to go to Europe?
한국에서 고릴라 선수님이 되게 유명한 선수시잖아요. 근데 올해 LCK를 떠나시고 유럽으로 오셨어요. 왜 그런 결정을 내리셨나요?
이게 아무래도 이제 한 직장에 오래 있다 보면 조금 마음이 편해지는 게 있잖아요. 약간 그런 거에 제가 LCK에 5, 6년 정도 있다 보니까 조금 너무 편하게 살지 않았나. 그래서 약간 좀 새로운 도전이자 마지막 도전이라고 생각하고 이렇게 유럽에 오게 됐습니다.
You know, when you have like the same job for a really long time, you just settle down and you feel really comfortable. And it's been like 5, 6 years I've been in LCK, and I needed a new challenge. So I came here as a new challenge and my last challenge maybe.
New challenge and new adventure here. Good start for you. You said in an interview that you had maybe some concerns about playing with Hansama because he may be less vocal than Prey, who used to play with you. So how are things going so far between the two of you?
이제 전 인터뷰 때 약간 한사마가 약간 말이 많이 없다고 그래서 걱정을 하셨는데 연습해보니까 어떠신가요?
일단 이제 제가 가장 오래 같이 한 프레이 형이랑 이제 했던 플레이 스타일은 아무래도 이제 팀을 위해 희생하는 스타일이었는데 이제 한사마 같은 경우에는 정글러나 팀을 자기를 위해서 쓸 줄 아는 친구라서 그런 점에서 조금 많이 배우고 있고 말이 없는 건 아닌 것 같아요.
Actually, he's not that, I mean, he's a bit talkative still, but it's not the same style like Prey, you know, when I used to play with Prey, we always sacrifice for the team. But now we are using the jungler, we're using the team for the bot lane, so I like it.
And the bot lane is clicking already. We saw it for the two first matches of you. Now, we have many strong bot lanes in Europe. Among every bot lane, who's the one who you want to face the most?
아주 유럽에 되게 잘하는 본라인이 많은데 누굴 제일 만나고 싶으신가요?
이제 아무래도 이제 제가 오래 하다 보니까 지금 EU 같은 경우에는 새로운 선수들이 좀 많은 게 제가 아직 다 몰라요. 근데 이제 그나마 좀 이슈를 많이 받고 있는 이제 펍즈 선수가 있는 G2 본라인이랑 한번 해보고 싶어요.
So there are a lot of new teams in Europe. I don't know them all yet, but you know, G2 Perks is really famous. I really want to play against them.
This is an interesting world swap indeed. Now, thank you very much, Gorilla, for the interview, and thank you, Hajin, for the translation. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, it's going to be the last game of the week. I'm sorry. Don't go anywhere.